really won't go that far. And so the committee is already actively looking at other funding sources. Mary Herzig has come to the committee, I believe it was last week, and identified a funding source. And once we have the proper forms in place, we're going to go before that, or he'll go before that funding source and solicit. We're also looking at creating a private-public relationship with financial institutes, local financial institutes, and or entrepreneurs or philanthropists to help continue fund the finance aspect of this Survive and Then Thrive program that the mayor has started. So we have a lot of work, but it's going to be worth it.
Thank you, Len. I really appreciate the work you're doing on this. Could you take a minute to just identify who all the members of the committee are?
Sure. So Michelle Caton, Barbara Ann Hegan, our own community developer Judy, Jamie Reynolds, and Megan. I think it's Marino. Thank you. I had the M, but sorry. But yes, all of these folks, we've divided up what our goals are, and everybody's working very hard. So it's relatively easy. Everybody's motivated. We understand that this is a critical aspect of getting our community back up and running.
Thank you, Len. I really appreciate. They're doing a great job, the Finance Committee. Councilmember Risberger, who is co-chairing committee. I'm not even sure what your current name is, but can you fill us in on what you've been up to?
Yeah, we left the name as the Infrastructure Committee just because it would cut down on confusion. Because knowing me, I would still call it the Infrastructure Committee, no matter what we renamed it. So, but thank you. The members of the committee are Ruth Allen, Danny Lappin, Kathy Meeker, myself, Al Rubin, Lori Zimnowitz, and Joan Fox. So we've got a really good group, and we're starting to actually wrap up with the work that we've done. And you'll have to apologize if my computer freezes. I'm having some internet issues. But what we did is we compiled a list of every single asset in Oneonta that we could think of. And then we took that core of assets, we split that up and categorized it by housing, transportation, co-working or makerspace asset, and quality of life asset. And the reason why we did that is because based on the target group that came from the marketing committee of alumni and people that would work from home or telework, move up here and still work in another city, we teased out the assets that would really relate to that group the most. And we had quite a laundry list of assets listed. Then we further broke down the quality of life assets and categorized them and broke them down by educational and cultural institutions, parks and rec facilities, healthcare facilities and systems, municipal services, and then the ones that didn't fall into the category where you just put in the other category. And there were only a handful of those. Then once we did that, we listed all the liabilities, broke them down by the same categories for Oneonta. And then looking at our core marketing group, we looked at the liabilities that we thought would most relate to, most hinder bringing this group here. This group meaning it's just a loosely defined group that would potentially come to a smaller city to live. We narrowed it down to about 21 targeted liabilities that we all agreed really need to be addressed. Some are more prioritized than those, and I provided this list to Mark Drenick. And I highlighted the ones that we thought really should be addressed first, because we think that some of these liabilities, once you address those, they may naturally lead to some of the other liabilities that are listed, or help better define those liabilities and help lead us to solving the other problems as well. So we finished that up. And now the last thing I'm going to be doing, because I have forwarded this information to the marketing committee, but I'm going to be separating out these liabilities by various departments, between Judy and Greg and Stephen. Some of these liabilities are really things that their departments have already been focusing on. So I'm going to be forwarding these to them in the coming days, and also to the council to find out where we are in addressing these, if we've begun to address them, and what's needed in order to start addressing them, and if they have been addressed or they're in the process of being worked on, which some of these I know are, if there's any kind of a timeline that we have, and then the remaining priorities, there's going to be outside groups like Destination Oneonta, Mark Drennick's group. Those are the groups that are really going to be able to target these liabilities, because it focuses more on downtown quality of life, business related liabilities that they would want to be aware of and deal with. So that's what I'll be doing in the next coming days. And then once we get some information back, we'll decide where we're going to go from there.
Thank you very much, Dave, and also thank you. Really appreciate the work you are doing with your group. They're really digging in and doing some great work.
It's a good group. Thank you.
Councilmember Drennick, I believe you're going to report on the marketing and promotion group, if I'm not correct.
Yeah, actually, yes.
I am correct.
You are correct. Thank you, Mayor. I'm having a couple of internet issues here, but it looks like we've got it. So the marketing committee has provided this little narrative for me to share with the group. And they'd like you to know that they've accomplished the following things to date. They've created a vision statement and goals and objectives, which run, the goals, objectives, and vision statement run about 3 or so pages. And I'll share that with council on the other side of this. It's very well done. It's a very well thought out bit of work. They've developed a rapport with Chairman Al Rubin of the Infrastructure Committee. Their committees are working very closely together, as Dave Risberger mentioned. Developed a rapport with Trampoline to utilize the existing new branding materials for the city of Oneonta in their marketing campaign. Working on developing a landing page that can be shared among all partners and ties in the Explore Oneonta website. They're working on a draft of a letter email communication that can be shared on behalf of the city of Oneonta to local alumni associations. And they're working on gathering a budget while being mindful not to reinvent the wheel and to keep costs low with utilizing the talents of the committee members. So if I can just say that this is a group, as is the case with the Infrastructure Committee, that's only been working for about a month and a half. And the amount of work that's been done by both of these groups, working in coordination with one another, it's pretty amazing, frankly. And I've seen work like this attempted on behalf of promotion on a larger scale sometimes, and certainly more expensive production. This has been, everybody has just been putting their time and effort into this, and it's very impressive. And so this marketing committee, my hat's off to them, and so to Dave Risberger's committee for infrastructure.
Thank you, Mark. Can you just briefly say a word about you're creating even another new committee?
Two. You know, we're building this thing out of whole cloth, and you don't realize what you need until you realize what you need. So I'd like to thank Katie Lapari-Shu very much for stepping up to help spearhead a communications committee, which is extremely important when you think about it. In retrospect, something probably that we might have landed on earlier in the process. But businesses and the community, there are so many new bits of information being added to the mix every single day. Sometimes there are course corrections within the context of that information. There are questions being posed that are answerable and some that are not. But the communication of all of that to all those parties, as I said, business and community, is a key to our success. And so Katie Lapari-Shu, Council Member Lapari-Shu, just the perfect person, in my estimation, to be spearheading this. There's certainly a social media component to this that she's very familiar with. And I expect that this is going to be a committee that does great things and provides the community with a much needed resource for that information. There's also another committee that we are in process of putting together with a couple of members of the retail establishment and a couple of restaurants, community member, and a couple of other folks, including Al Rubin and myself, looking at reimagining public spaces in Oneonta and specifically downtown and around downtown, so that we can create a larger, more square footage essentially for both retail and restaurants, so that they are able to accommodate their shoppers and diners in a way that is, at least for the short term, going to be the new normal.
Great. Thank you, Mark, and thank you, Katie, for agreeing to step up and be part of this. I want to tell you that all I did was ask a half a dozen people if they would meet and form a group to create strategies to survive and then thrive for our local businesses, and ask them to be results oriented. They on their own just took off from there. They grew their group from 6 people to about 40 people. It's just remarkable. What can you say other than it's just wonderful the way people have just put their energy into this, stepped up, and just grabbed the bull by the horn and are taking the lead and making this happen. So everybody's involved with it. Thank you very much. Okay. Does anybody have any questions they want to ask about this?
Mayor, I don't want to give short shrift to the folks in the promotion committee. They haven't been mentioned, and they're doing.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were done. Go ahead.
In fact, I was done, and it just dawned on me that there's yet another committee that is working their tail ends off. And that committee is the promotions committee, and that's Katrina Van Zandt and Deb Blake and Ellie Stromberg and Jim Havener, and Mark Davies has joined recently. Great to have you on that, Mark, and Teresa Szyszewski. And then there's some peripheral planning going on with several other community members. But those folks have instituted a Shop Small Saturdays. That's a weekly Saturday event that will morph, I suspect, from totally online to some hybrid. There is also a bingo game, a downtown bingo game that Mark Davies is coordinating with the Daily Star. There are going to be any number of promotions that are going to wind up being connective to the to this reimagining public spaces piece, because people want entertainment, and so they'll bring that to that. And on top of that, as you'll be voting later on, there is a promotion called Ticket to Win It, in which we are promoting the folks, 10 artists at Kano, So it's our first of the 4 modules, essentially. We're on to something artistic, and that promotion should have the effect of not only supporting Kano and promoting Kano, but also encouraging dining and shopping in Oneonta over the course of a 5-week period. So that is everything we've got.
Thank you, Mark. Scott, I think you raised your hand for a question.
I did, but Mark just answered the question, so I don't have it anymore.
He's a mind reader. Katie?
I just wanted to clarify that that is the $3,000 that's earmarked in motion 10. Okay. Okay, cool. Thank you.
If there are no other questions, we had our first commission meeting this week since the shutdown. It was the Parks and Rec Commission. Councilmember Lepari Shu was there, so I'm going to ask her to report on it.
Yeah, it was great. Lou Lansing has not been taking this time off, let me tell you that. She's got it all figured out in the park system. So basically, you know, COVID-19 has not left any area of the city untouched. Parks is no different. There are any number of events that are canceled. In fact, the majority of them. These are things that we, as a city, charge an application fee and then like a use fee. None of those revenues are going to be coming into the city this year. So that's obviously a challenge, but they are still looking at ways to give people something to do and engage, and how can we kind of manifest these things differently. So there is some positive movement toward the summer concert series still taking place, which is great. And you know, she's kind of picking and choosing which, and I shouldn't say she, because ultimately I think it's up to us where we end up going with this, but just which projects that are on the Parks Master Plan and things are going to be able to be done this year, versus things that may have to be pushed off. One of the things that was a hot topic was the dog park. And so we're kind of looking into different ways to support it, to be able to let it continue to go forward. So we'll have some more information on that, I think, at the next meeting. One of the things that is recommended to go forward is the resurfacing of the tennis courts. Evidently, they are in pretty rough shape, and if we don't do it soon, it'll end up being a bigger expense, is the reasoning that I got. We're also adding pickleball courts, permanent pickleball courts in Neowa Park, and since that is kind of a burgeoning sport. One thing I do want to address is that I heard from a constituent that they had mentioned seeing fewer garbage cans out in the parks. And that was confirmed that there were fewer garbage cans, kind of for a couple of reasons. One was less garbage cans in the pavilions, because we're trying to encourage people to not gather in those spaces. But also just because the workforce had been diminished based on the pandemic, there just wasn't enough maintenance, really, staff to be able to get in there and keep all those things nice. So they are adding 7 additional garbage cans, I think it's this week, in Neowa, and 4 in Wilbur Park. So those will be back up to, you know, more normal level. I think that's everything. I will say I was on a call today about the Wilbur Park pool opening. I know that the city is working hand in hand with the Y to be able to provide that for city residents this year. It's just a matter of figuring out what the guidelines are and how to keep everybody safe and how we're gonna work within that. So those wheels are rolling, and hopefully we'll have some more info on when that will open soon.
Thank you, Katie. I just want to point out that the tennis court resurfacing, that is being paid, at least in part, Judy Pangman wrote a grant application to the United States Tennis Association. She's shaking her head no, but she did. And I think we're awarded $2,000.
Not for resurfacing that's for reopening. To be able to reopen it safely.
Okay, well, you have to resurface it in order to reopen it safely.
Okay.
So some of the cost is being deterred by a $2,000 grant that Judy wrote to the United States Tennis Association, and which we were awarded. So thank you for doing that, Judy.
I think too, one of the reasonings that I got was, in addition to it being the kind of project that if you put off gets worse, is that tennis is one of the approved minimal contact sports right now. So that's something that is a little bit more pertinent.
Good. Dave? Dave, you have a question?
Yeah, Katie, the pickleball courts, you said they're in Neowah. Did you mean Wilbur?
You know, I wondered about that. Lou said Neowah, and she
Yeah,
might
'cause
have
that-
said it a couple of times. I can double check. I know there's 8 courts with the lines permanently drawn and basically everything that you need to play pickleball. I'm pretty sure she said Neowah. I have it written down here, but I
I
can
wonder if
double
she
check
meant
on that.
Wilbur.
It is Neowah.
What's that, Greg?
Oh, is Neowah? Oh, thanks, Greg. Yeah, because we're doing the 6 tennis courts in Wilbur and a basketball court, right? I'll let you talk.
It's seven tennis courts. There's 8 tennis courts in Wilbur now. There will be 7 plus a basketball court. And then the tennis courts that are currently in Neowah will be converted to pickleball courts.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Greg.
Sure.
And as Katie mentioned, municipal pools are approved to be opened. It's at the discretion of the municipality. We had an initial meeting today with the Y. We want to hear from them what obstacles there were, staffing, resources, enforcement, and health concerns to opening the pool. The Y was very enthusiastic about the possibility of being able to open the pool. I've asked them to submit a proposal to us on how that would work and what they would need for it to happen. So in the course of the next week, hopefully we can make a decision. If we're able to move forward with opening the pool, we would expect it to happen somewhere around the first week in July for it to open. I think it's an important resource for people to get out of the heat, learn how to swim, have recreation. So we'll see if it's possible. Okay. With that, I think we're ready for the consent agenda. Okay. All right, I'm going to read through the consent agenda, and you'll let me know if there's any motions you want removed. Motion 1 is motion that the council approves the minutes of the regular meeting, which was held on May 19th, 2020. Motion 2, council approves the warrants totaling $299,264.75, and that the same be placed on the Director of Finance's desk for payment as presented. 3, motion that the council authorizes the mayor to accept a $2,000 facility recovery grant awarded to the city of Oneonta by the United States Tennis Association. There it is. To help defray some of the tennis-related expenses associated with reopening the Wilbur Park tennis courts in 2020. And authorizes the mayor to order any necessary amendments and transfers, and to take any actions and to provide any additional information which may be required to implement the proposed program, subject to review by the city attorney. 4, motion that the council approves the following resolution. Now, just going to say a word on this. These were grant applications that were previously approved and submitted. My understanding is that the FAA said that the wording did not meet their requirements. So we are reapproving resolutions which were previously approved in 2019 with wording that meets the FAA requirements. Jenny, is there anything to add to that? Do I have that complete?
Yes, Mayor, you're correct. It's that it was the New York State DOT that did not accept the
Oh,
motion.
it's DOT. Okay. Okay, thank you. Okay, motion 4. Whereas the city of Oneonta submitted to the Federal Aviation Administration a grant application dated July 9th, 2019 for a grant of federal funds to conduct an environmental assessment for on and off airport obstruction removal. And whereas the FAA has approved the project at a cost of $103,000, with the city of Oneonta being awarded an FAA grant of $92,700 for said project. Funding shares being federal 90%, which is $92,700, state 5%, which is $5,150, and local 5%, which is an additional $5,150. And whereas consistent and in furtherance of the resolution heretofore made by the Common Council of the City of Oneonta on May 21st, 2019, the city desires to advance the project by committing funds for the local match in the amount of $5,150. And whereas the city of Oneonta and the state of New York have heretofore entered into an agreement which authorizes the undertaking of the project and the payment of the state share for the project, now therefore be it resolved that in furtherance of the actions heretofore authorized by the Common Council of the City of Oneonta by resolution regarding this project made on May 21st, 2019, and in furtherance of all actions taken related to this project from the effective date of July 9th, 2019, the city approves a capital budget for said project not to exceed $103,000 and shall make available from the general fund balance the amount of $5,150 as the required local match for said project. And be it further resolved that all necessary budgets, budget amendments, and transfers for said local share are hereby authorized, and be it further resolved that the mayor is hereby authorized to execute all necessary agreements on behalf of the city of Oneonta, and be it further resolved that this resolution shall take effect immediately. Motion 5. Motion that the council approves the following. Whereas the city of Oneonta submitted to the FAA a grant application dated June 20th, 2019 for a grant of federal funds to reconstruct the terminal apron, rehabilitate the terminal apron, and reconstruct the apron edge lighting and reconstruct the apron guidance signs and design. And whereas the FAA approved said project on July 19, 2019 at a cost of $132,000, with the city of Oneonta being awarded an FAA grant for $118,800 for the project. Funding shares being federal 90%, which is $118,800, state 5%, which is $6,600, and local 5%, which is another $6,600. And whereas consistent and in furtherance of the resolution heretofore made by the Common Council of the City of Oneonta on May 21, 2019, the city desires to advance the project by committing funds for the local match in the amount of $6,600. And whereas the City of Oneonta and the State of New York have heretofore entered into an agreement which authorizes the undertaking of the project and the payment of the state share for the project, now therefore be it resolved that in furtherance of the actions heretofore authorized by the Common Council of the City of Oneonta by resolution regarding this project on May 21, 2019. And in furtherance of all actions taken related to the project from the effective date of July 9, 2019, the city approves a capital budget for said project not to exceed $132,000 and shall make available from the general fund balance the amount of $6,600 as the required local match for said project. And, excuse me, be it further resolved that all necessary budgets, budget amendments, and transfers for said local share are hereby authorized. And be it further resolved that the mayor is authorized to execute all necessary agreements on behalf of the city of Oneonta. And be it further resolved that this resolution shall take effect immediately. Number 6. This is a motion that the council approves the following resolution. Whereas section 5311 of Title 49, United States Code, provides federal financial assistance for public transportation in rural and small urban areas by way of a formula grant to be administered by the states. And whereas the governor of the state has designated the New York State Department of Transportation to receive and administer federal funds under this non-urbanized area formula program. And whereas New York State Department of Transportation is authorized by Section 14 of the Transportation Law to assist in the operation of transportation facilities and services in the state, including mass transit facilities and services. And whereas Public Law number 116-136 authorized temporary additional funding, and the city of Oneonta was awarded $1,157,331 of standard operating assistance under the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Securities Act of 2020, a portion through the Federal Transit Administration formula grants for rural area program, Title 49, for any eligible activity authorized under the formula grants for rural area program. In addition, CARES Act funds may also be used for dedicated revenue losses to support public transportation services incurred after January 20, 2020. Whereas the city of Oneonta and the state of New York have entered into a continuing agreement which authorizes the undertaking of projects and reimbursement of the federal and applicable state shares, and be it resolved that the mayor is authorized to act on behalf of the city of Oneonta to sign the application and process and complete the above named project. 7, motion that the council approves the following budget transfers for the purchase of a laptop and other supplies from the water and sewer funds. $1,500 to come from line item 8310.409 of the water administration, which is water administration and working supplies, to be transferred to the water fund contingency line. And $1,500 to come from the sewer administration working supplies line 8110.409, transferred to the sewer fund contingency line, which is 1990.480. Number 8, motion that the council approves amending the sanitary sewer main Lower Wilbur capital project H63 to include replacement of water lead surfaces at an estimated cost of $10,000 to be funded by appropriations included in the 2020 water fund budget. This amendment will bring the total capital project budget from $1,255,000 to $1,265,000. Motion 9. Motion that the council authorizes the city of Oneonta to enter into a short-term bus service agreement with the county of Otsego to provide bus service to the southern portion of Otsego County along the route designated as route number 6, which includes stops in Oneonta, Otego, Unadilla, and Sydney, This is normally operated by the ARC Otsego. This service would be totally funded by CARES Act monies, and the city would remain eligible for all mileage reimbursement from the operation of that route from both New York State DOT and the STOA funds. The service would be provided using only currently owned and operated OPT buses. This service agreement would continue until ARC Otsego can resume the route, but for no longer than 6 months unless extended by authorization of the council. This agreement will be subject to review by the city attorney. Motion 10. Whereas due to the financial impact of COVID-19, the city of Oneonta has established a task force to focus on the survival of our small businesses with the goals of increasing sales with online promotions and events, providing financial assistance, planning an aggressive recovery strategy, and promoting the advantages of communities such as Oneonta. And whereas the Common Council supports these goals, believing it is in the best interest of the city and is consistent with the city's comprehensive plan. And whereas it is necessary to establish funding sources and budgetary controls for said project. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Common Council of the City of Oneonta hereby authorizes a community development project known as Survive, Then Thrive program. And be it further resolved that the Survive, Then Thrive program fund will consist of various goals known as Survive ARC online sales promotion and small business relief and recovery investment. And be it further resolved that the Council of the City of Oneonta hereby establishes a budget of $3,000 for the Survive ARC online sales promotion, $75,000 for the small business reopening, and $75,000 for the small business recovery. And be it further resolved that the Council of the City of Oneonta authorizes the use of the funds from the UDAG pre-2000 HUD program income. I never remember what UDAG stands for. Judy might know.
Ginny, correct me if I'm wrong. Urban Development Administration grants,
Yes.
There you
Urban,
go.
and it doesn't exist any longer.
Thank you. This is old funds that were income from that grant. Program income, local program income, recaptured properties, repurposed community development grant administrative funds, and possible FEMA aid for this program as these monies become available. And be it resolved that the Director of Finance is authorized to process the necessary budget amendments and transfers for said project based on the available funds described above. And finally, motion 11. Motion that the council temporarily suspends Article 5, Section 2D of the City of Oneonta Administrative Personnel Manual from March 16, 2020 through December 31, 2020. This is to allow any administrative employee who is required to report to work to perform COVID-19 response activities or related work the ability to exceed the maximum vacation accrual as provided for in this article. The council authorizes and directs the personnel director to review, determine, and approve the amount of hours to be extended for each request, and to ensure that any accrued vacation time beyond the usual maximum be used no later than December 31, 2020. And also that such time is used in a manner not detrimental to city operations. Council further authorizes the personnel director to enter into memorandums of agreement with any of the city's 4 bargaining units at the request of any such bargaining unit to capture these terms for any represented employees similarly affected. That concludes the consent agenda. I'll entertain any requests to remove any of those 11 items. Okay, hearing none. I'll ask. Oh, sorry.
6, 9, and 10. Sorry, everybody.
Okay. If there are no others, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda minus items 6, 9, and 10. Moved by Councilmember Carson, second by Councilmember Risberger. I will call the vote. Councilmember Murphy,
Aye.
Councilmember Davies,
Aye.
Councilmember Risberger,
Aye.
Councilmember Lepari Shu,
Aye.
Councilmember Carson,
Aye.
Councilmember Harrington,
Aye.
Councilmember Drennick. I'm sorry, Councilmember Rafter,
Aye.
Councilmember Drennick.
Aye.
Okay. The consent agenda minus 6, 9, and 10 passes. Let's go to motion 6. That was, let's see, motion 6. That was the DOT. This was the DOT addition of, no, this is the acceptance of the CARES fund, funding for, from DOT, actually from the CARES Act for DOT. To the OPT. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Councilmember Harrington, do I have a second?
Second.
Councilmember Davies, I think I had saw first. Discussion?
Yeah, the question I had was, and not that I would ever turn money down. I'm just curious, what specifically is the money supposed to be going toward?
I'm going to let Ginny, she probably can give you better detail on it than I can.
Thank you, Mayor. David, yes, what this money is going for is for lost revenues in our transit system. Because we are a non-urbanized formula-based operation, they have recognized that because of loss of ridership, we will not be receiving what we call our STOA aid based on passengers and miles. So
Okay.
the CARES Act is replacing those lost revenues so we can keep our transportation department funded.
Is it replacing all the lost revenue, or what percent is it replacing, if not all of it?
It will, basically it will replace all. We are able to spend, unless we lose more than 1,157,000. But
Okay.
it will fund all of our operation and capital expenditures, and there is no end date to it. And what will be eligible is anything that is eligible under our normal 5311 grant applications. And that is basically almost all of OPT's operation. We have some ineligibles, but it's very minimal.
Okay, great. Thank you, Jenny.
You're welcome.
Yeah, the amount, Dave, was established by the state, the amount of the grant. Okay, the amount was established by the state based upon a formula, which I think was based upon ridership numbers. So they allocated the CARES money across the state accordingly. So it's not based upon our actual losses. Okay, so any other further discussion? Okay, then I will call the vote. Councilmember Murphy,
Aye.
Councilmember Davies,
Aye.
Councilmember Risberger,
Aye.
Councilmember Lepari Shu,
Aye.
Councilmember Carson,
Aye.
Councilmember Harrington,
Aye.
Councilmember Rafter,
Aye.
Councilmember Drennick.
Aye.
Yeah, it's motion 6 passes. Go now to motion 9. And motion 9, this regards the taking over Route 6 from Arcot Seago. I'll entertain a motion to approve. Councilmember
moved.
Harrington, do I have a second? Councilmember Murphy, discussion.
Okay, the question I had with this one is, this might sound like a dumb question, but ARC, how come ARC is not running their own bus at this point? Or what's keeping them from running their own buses?
They're not able to return under the governor's
phases,
Okay.
so they're not rating anything right now. And it
Okay.
does-
I wasn't aware that they weren't able to do that right now. Okay. All right. That's all I had. Thanks, Dave.
Anybody else? Any further discussion on it? Okay, I'll call the vote. Councilmember Murphy,
Aye.
Councilmember Davies,
Aye.
Councilmember Risberger,
Aye.
Councilmember Lepari Shu,
Aye.
Councilmember Carson,
Aye.
Councilmember Harrington,
Aye.
Councilmember Rafter,
Aye.
Councilmember Drennick.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Thank you. And now we'll go to motion 10. This is allocating the funds for the Survive Then Thrive program. I'll entertain a motion to approve. Councilmember Harrington, do I have a second?
Second.
Councilmember Drennick. Discussion.
Okay, again, the question I had here is we're looking at a budget of 153,000. And first of all, I want to thank for all the work that Mark and Judy have done with this. I think this is tremendous. But I was looking at where the money is coming from, and I'm just wondering, it sounds like the money is not exactly there yet, based on some of the things that it's coming from recaptured properties and possible FEMA aid. Judy, maybe you're the one that I need to ask the question to. Are the funds, is the 153,000 actually there right now, or we're hoping it to be there? And if so, when would we think it's going to be there? And if it's not going to be there, what do we do then at that point?
So Ginny, do you want to answer that? You want me to take that?
It's up to you, Judy. I'll answer it if you'd like.
Or well, back me up, or if I miss anything, step in. So the way that the resolution is worded, or the motion is worded, is it's authorizing these amounts. If the funds aren't actually in the city account at this point, I wouldn't have authorization from finance department to allocate that or spend those funds. So, but this is authorizing that total amount because these funds will be here by the end of the year. If they're not, then we wouldn't be spending them. So,
Okay,
and relative to the FEMA is in there because we're checking to see if any of the funds or any of the money that we're spending on the PPEs and distributing out to the small businesses could be FEMA reimbursable. So we're still in the process of finding that out. So that's why that's in there.
So it could be months before we actually have money to spend.
No,
small
we
business.
have nearly all of the money is in our accounts right now. So we have enough to get going with, I want to say it was almost 145,000 is in our funds right now to spend.
Okay, all right, that's great.
Close to that, somewhere in that neighborhood.
Councilmember Lepari Shu.
Yeah, so I guess my question on the other end of that is that this amount that we're approving tonight, is that, or should we approve it, is that just sort of, you kind of looked at all possible monies available that we could allocate to this and said this is our budget, or is it something that is like, what's the oversight on the expenditure of that money? So like, are there specific budgeted things on the back end of this once we allocate this money? What's the plan? Is there a plan yet, sort of for the bulk of it, or you just think this is what you can spend should you choose to? And then I guess the other question, the other part of that is what businesses are eligible? Has that been defined yet? And how do they gain access to these funds? So it's two parts.
I heard about half of that and I didn't hear any of the
I
last
don't know who I'm
question.
asking that, but those are the questions that are bouncing around in my head.
Judy,
Judy, I think she's asking about oversight.
So,
Oh,
Shake your head. I
okay.
thought I heard
I did
one,
get a
one
little,
of the
your
things.
internet is unstable thing in the middle. So I was like really hoping. Yeah, so let me just repeat it. Okay, so I'll just repeat it. So I guess my question is, this budget, are we saying these are all the available monies that we could find? And so now Survive and Thrive Task Force, here's your budget and you can spend it as you want? Or was it the other way around? Are we saying these are the things that we want to do and this is the money that we need in order to do it? So I guess my question is like, what came first? And
okay.
so do we have a plan for once we allocate these funds to Survive and Thrive? Do we know already how they will be spent?
yes.
And then the second part of that question is just what businesses are eligible and how they gain access to the funds.
Okay, so we've done this in a number of
It was heard that time.
Yeah, I heard that, and I can take this.
I can't wait to
question.
be
So,
in a room with all of you.
can you hear me?
yes, we
Okay.
can.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
we figured this out from a few different approaches. First of all, we went through the city funds to figure out what funds might be able to be repurposed and for what. So this ask is not for all of the funds that we may have available or that could be repurposed. But it is for almost all of what we could repurpose for small business assistance. We have other funds in some of our grants that I think we may be able to repurpose for the branding and marketing. I'm sorry, for the promotions and marketing events that are upcoming. But they will require approval from the funding agencies once I know what the budgets are on the items that we want. So that's going to be a second piece that we're not addressing yet. So this ask is, the first one is $3,000 that is for the promotion, for the Ticket to Win It promotion. There may be other promotion items that are coming down the pike that we want to help fund, and that'll be in the next piece that we'll look at. It'll be under this Survive Then Thrive umbrella, though.
Mm-hmm.
Then the small business funds, we have two that we're looking at. We're fine-tuning the details now as we speak. But we're planning on the first program, because we're having you authorize $75,000 for the small business reopening. Within that, there'll be two pieces, both of which will be administered by the city. The first piece would be the city bulk ordering PPE equipment and distributing that to small businesses. The second piece of that, and we're still right now determining how much of that $75,000 will be for that piece. And then the balance of that $75,000 would be put out as a grant to the small businesses. It's going to be an online fillable application that's going to be on supportoneana.com. And we're going to heavily advertise it through social media and all the other media that we can. And that will be for small grants up to $500 so that businesses can get whatever other PPE and safe distancing equipment and things that they need in order to reopen. Because the stuff that we're going to bulk order is going to be pretty basic. It's going to be masks, hand sanitizers, maybe some cleaners, things like that. But businesses may need other items specific to that business, like signage, markers, floor markings, the shields, face shields, things like that.
Gotcha.
Okay, so that's the one program. We have the guidance for that almost ready. Our committee is going to be doing a final review on that this week. Then the other program for 75,000 is the recovery for small businesses. That one, we're looking to have that be for grants up to $3,000 so that they can use that also for PPE and stuff and reopening stuff, but mainly for working capital. So rent, utilities, payroll. Both of these programs were allowing the costs to be backdated to March 13th when this first started. So we're hoping that that money, as soon as we get the application out, we're going to use a combined application for both programs. And as soon as that money gets, or as soon as the applications get out, we feel that most businesses probably have receipts for up to 3,000, and we can get that money out right on the street right away.
Cool.
That one, the third one for the $3,000 is going to be administered by OCDC, the Otsego County Development Corporation. That would allow the corporation, as we get other funding, because in addition to this, we're also applying to the Community Foundation of Otsego County for another $25,000 through Future of Oneonta Foundation, because only nonprofits can apply for that money. So FOF has agreed to apply for that on our behalf. And then the plan would be for that money to be also put in this pot. So then we're up to $100,000. And then we're going to be looking for other sources of funds to continue on with the program. The next phase of it may be a loan program, a revolving loan program, but this initial phase would be a grant form, whether it's a forgivable loan or a straight up grant. So that's the plan right now.
Okay.
for
That makes more sense to me. So I guess just follow-up question, and this may be a stupid question, but how are we defining small and local businesses for the purposes of this?
They have to be in the city. They have to be located in the city of Oneonta,
Okay.
and they have to have 50 or fewer employees. And they can have no employees. They can be
Okay.
owner, run with no employees. We
Okay.
try to make it as broad as we can, but really target our small businesses.
Okay, great. And it's within city limits, correct? So
Yes.
town.
No, because it's city funds, it has to be just city businesses.
Okay. All right, great. Thank you.
Now, I got lost here. This is discussion for the motion, correct? Okay, is there any
Yeah.
further discussion? Okay, then I will call the vote. Councilmember Murphy,
Aye.
Councilmember Davies,
Aye.
Councilmember Risberger,
Aye.
Councilmember Lepari Shu,
Aye.
Councilmember Carson,
Aye.
Councilmember Harrington,
Aye.
Councilmember Rafter,
Aye.
Councilmember Drenick.
Aye.
Okay, that was motion 10. Motion 10 passes. So we'll now, that concludes the motions on the agenda. Additional business, anybody?
Mayor,
I got Councilmember Murphy first, and then I'll get you, Len.
Thank you, Mayor. I have two things to announce. Can you all hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So two things to announce. One is related to the commission I'm on. It's not official commission of business, but it's part of what the commission's involved in. Just to give everybody a heads up that we do have Pride Fest coming up. Unfortunately, due to COVID, it will be not in person this year. It will be online. It looks like it's going to be a great event. It'll be Saturday, I believe, from 4 to 7. And they have a website, which is the OtsegoPrideAlliance.org, with a whole bunch of information on there. Again, it looks like it'll be a great event. Sad it can't be in person, but that is absolutely totally understandable. And the second thing is based on some of the discussions I've had with some residents in my ward, and just to show a bit of support for the city of Oneonta, I have prepared a brief statement if I may read it. So I would like to start off by saying I recognize that I am new to this council, and as a result, I don't speak up very much. I'm trying my best to learn the ins and outs of being a council member, and sometimes the best way to do that is for me to listen as best I can. However, I've been around long enough to speak out against injustice when I see it, and I believe that now is that time. What happened to George Floyd is not an isolated incident. Rather, it is only the most recent occurrence and most public form of the abuse that has been suffered for over 400 years in our nation. My thoughts and prayers go out to the Floyd family, but we need to work together to do more than just thoughts and prayers. We as a society must acknowledge and embrace that, in fact, Black lives do matter. I would like to conclude by saying I am so very proud of this community. Like you said, 500 people this weekend. It's an enormous amount of the population, given everything else that is going on that has come out in support of our neighbors of color. And I just want to encourage everybody to keep fighting and never to let that fire of hope and courage to go out. So everybody, please be safe during the pandemic. If you are to protest, please do it safely with PPE and be educated and keep fighting. Thank you very much.
Councilmember Carson.
Thank you, Mayor. It was a point of order. Do we need to approve the minutes from our previous meeting? I don't see it on the agenda. I didn't know if you wanted to do that or not.
Well, thank you for your eagle eye. I didn't catch that. I'm not sure why it wasn't on the agenda. We'll have to check with the clerk. Or here's Carrie. She just woke up and
they're on. I had to get more coffee. They're on the consent agenda. Actually, they're item number 1. You've already approved them.
I read them. Well, I don't remember, but I take your word for it.
Sorry about that, Gary. I stand corrected.
That's okay.
Thank you, Carrie. I didn't think we'd get one up on Carrie.
Sorry, guys. You already did it.
Okay.
I did the same thing last meeting.
Okay. Any other items for discussion? Additional business, anything? Okay. I was not made aware of any correspondence. So with that, oh wait, Councilmember Davies has something?
Sorry, I was going to put this in correspondence rather than additional business, but I did get 2 emails this last 2-week period. I'm asking about the planters on Main Street, whether they will be planted at some point this year. And that was of great interest of the particular residents. So just wonder what the situation is with that. And then one member actually wanted to get involved. So who should they get involved with?
Oh.
The planting is done by the Oneonta Garden Club. It looks like Katie's very excited about this.
I'm a member of the Garden Club.
There you go.
Planting is tomorrow at 8 a.m. and we're meeting at Muller Plaza. So just bring your favorite trowel and we'll put you to work.
Excellent. I'll pass it along. Thank you, Katie.
Yeah.
And masks are required. And distancing, my recommendation was 2 people to a planter.
And as far as I know, that's what we're gonna do. So, but I know they're grateful for help. So come on down if you're an early bird.
It's a great group of people who do that for us every year. Yes, Councilmember Carson.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to ask. Are we doing everything, or is there anything else that we need to do to make sure that we are in compliance with the governor's phase-in so that we, as a community, as a city, are ready to streamline through the different phases? Because obviously we're all very concerned on the council to get the small businesses back up and running. I just want to make sure if there's something that we all need to do collectively as a council, that we can do that. And then I was wondering if maybe you could... and then I guess the last part is I was wondering if you could just update us on the loss and where we're at with that.
On the what? Update you on what?
I'm sorry. Update us on the loss on Deet Street.
Oh, the loft. Okay, yeah. Well, first, what can we do to help move forward to phase 3? We're in phase 2 now. We hope, if all goes well, to move to phase 3 in approximately 2 weeks from now. The metrics continue to be going in the right direction. All the health metrics are holding steady, so that is good news. One thing you can do to help is we had a large number of businesses, retail, beauty salons, barbers, professional services became eligible to open last Saturday. And the number that have self-certified, every business that opens is required to go on the New York Forward website, read the guidelines, and just self-certify that they read the guidelines and will adhere to them. The number of businesses in Otsego County and the city of Oneonta that have actually done so is very small. We know that many, many more businesses are open. I actually get a list. Many, many more businesses are open that have self-certified. It's a very, very small number that have actually read the guidelines and self-certified. We need to get the word out to businesses. I'm sure it's not intentional. I'm sure it's a matter of just the rush to reopen, maybe not being aware. So everything we can do, I've asked the chamber, I've asked Destination Oneonta, I've asked Mark Drenick for his websites. Anything you can do in conversations with the business community to remind them that they are required to read the guidelines and certify that they read them and will comply with them. It doesn't take long. It's a one-time deal. Would be helpful because the state is looking at that, and it's important that we are adhering as we move to the next phase. The lofts on Deet Street, I'll let David report on that. Merzig.
The Article 78 proceeding has been briefed. Also responding affidavits in the record has been filed, and both parties have had an opportunity to submit documentation. That was all closed out on May 20th. And so the Article 78 proceeding itself is pending a written decision from Judge Kokoma, which is basically up to him. There was a continuing challenge regarding the right of the city to sell the parking lot at all. That was done not as an Article 78, but as a declaratory judgment, which is a different wrinkle. One of the things that the city asked for was to wrap that into the Article 78 proceeding. So we'll see how the court addresses that. But and we may in fact be moving forward to force the issue to make a specific motion to include it. But basically the case has been submitted and briefed, and it's before Judge Kokoma pending his decision. If you have a specific question, I can answer it, I think, but.
No, thank you, David, for that update. And then has SHPO gotten back to us? I mean, we authorized the expenditure of funds to do whatever they wanted for compliance. Has SHPO gotten back to us for the property on Market Street?
Well, you'll recall that we contracted with Delaware Engineering. The first steps are that they have to do a complete structural analysis of the building to present to SHPO. They I believe, are very close to completing the structural analysis. They've made several visits to the building, and then we'll contact SHPO to present that to them, and then to negotiate with SHPO to allow us to demolish the building. Councilmember Murphy?
Hi, yes. We had our ward meeting last week, and it was brought to my attention in the first ward at the top of Sand Street, where Sand meets Valley View, that there's a significant problem with flooding, and I just wanted to bring that to the council's attention, that it creates quite a bit of hazard, especially after a heavy rainfall, and it's quite difficult to cross the street.
Greg, are you here?
Yeah, we're aware of that issue. There's a ponding issue at the top of the street there. As Luke described, it is an issue after heavy rain. So we're looking into what we can do to fix that.
Thanks, Greg.
Sure.
Anything else from anybody? Scott?
This might be more of a question for Greg. I've had several neighbors up and down the street concerned about their driveway aprons. And the city has historically always, since I've been growing up here, taken care of that. And apparently now they're being told that the city will no longer fill in the lower potholes in the apron where the plows and stuff push the snow and come across in the salt. Was that ever done by the vote from the city council? Was that from a city manager, or how did it come to be that we no longer take care of those aprons?
I wasn't aware that we ever took care of those aprons, Scott. What I was told by previous DPW directors was that was something that we didn't do, but obviously I could be incorrect on that. I'm not aware of any written policy. My opinion is that those are part of the driveway. They wouldn't be there if there wasn't a driveway. Typically if we go through the city and does a project to replace all the curbs along a street or the sidewalk, the aprons are done at that time to make sure that everything matches and is a smooth transition. But we don't go around and replace individual driveway aprons based on requests.
Well, it's more like where the salt and stuff gets pushed on it and it ruins it. But I would have to disagree with that, Greg. Growing up in the area, I've always seen the city maintain the lower part of the driveway apron from the road to the by the sidewalk. When Ted Christmas was alive and them, they would always do that, one, because then they could maintain that the level was where they needed it for runoffs and stuff like that. And one of the neighbors was told by the person blacktopping that they weren't allowed to touch the driveway aprons because it was part of the city, because the city owns so much from the roadway over towards your property.
Dave Merzick, if you'd like to jump in with any explanation of city right-of-way versus ownership, I'm sure you can explain it better than I can, maybe briefly.
Well, the first thing I might note for Scott's benefit is that Teddy was a born and loyal sixth warder, and with that full understanding, we could go forward. But and the answer is it depends on the situation. What you should understand is the city doesn't own, in most cases, and certainly along River Street, they don't own it. It's owned by the owner. They simply have there's a public right of way. People have the right to walk across it, even though they have title to it. It's a complicated issue, but normally it's considered the responsibility of the property owner, unless the city is the one who causes the damage. If the city caused the damage because a snowplow ran into it or something of that nature, then that's a different story. So it kind of depends on the fact situation, but as a normal rule, the city doesn't go on private property, and most aprons are actually within the private property of the property owner. But again, it depends on the situation. You can't make a blanket statement one way or another. I wish you could, but Teddy was known to take care of the folks in River Street.
Well, I was asked to bring it up. I figured what better time than to do it now. So, but thanks for the clarification, because they were just wondering. So, I mean, that's useful information to take back.
Well, if there is a particular situation where something's been dug up, or it looks like a plow has nicked an edge or something like that, then they ought to take a look at it. But as a practical matter, if it's just normal deterioration, then the city doesn't do the repair.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Greg. I appreciate it. Thanks, Dave.
Hey, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to jump in, but my question is kind of a follow-up to that. I just wonder if either Greg or David could explain just a little bit the city's ownership over the property on the median. It's just come up a couple of times in my ward. And so I just thought it'd be nice in this public forum to kind of remind city residents just like what that is, if it's, you know, a certain amount of feet back from the street, or what that is.
If there were an easy answer to that, you would know it already. As it's very idiosyncratic depending on what street, what parcel. There in many deeds in the city, when they were first established, the property owner technically has title to the middle of the street, but we still don't let them put barricades up and charge people to go up and down the street. The city normally has, just as a rule of thumb, goes approximately a foot on the inside of the sidewalk. So and when I say the city doesn't own it, but the city has the right along with the public, to traverse it, and people can't obstruct it, even though they have title in their deed. They can't obstruct it. They can't tear up the sidewalk. They can't plant or cut down trees in the grass space between the sidewalk and the street. So the city has the right to control that for the benefit of the public at large. And so it's a right of way rather than the city owning it. That's in like manner. That's why we have a statute that requires property owners to shovel their sidewalks. The city controls the sidewalks, but the property owner is still obligated to clean the sidewalks in front of their property. It's a complicated subject, and so the rules of thumb that apply, except when they don't. But you can look at any individual situation, and we can address it. But I don't know if that answers your question or not.
Yeah, I feel like that was at least mostly clarifying. So thank you.
Okay. Well, and again, there's specific situations that we can address, and policies that apply to most places in the city, with some exceptions.
Anybody else?
Yes, Gary.
Dave, Dave.
I've been talking here with one of our business owners who did not realize they had to do self-certification to reopen their business, and wants to know the process of having that done. Can you run me through the process real quick, and I can tell him, or what website should he go to do that?
ESD.
I'm sorry?
ESD.ny.gov/New York Forward. Or if you just go to the New York Forward website, plain New York Forward, you can find a link that connects you to the ESD website I just gave you. On there, you follow the link to businesses that can reopen. You identify what type of business you have. You find the guidelines are there. You read through the guidelines, and then you just click a place where it asks you to certify that you've read them and will adhere to them. If anybody is having trouble navigating it, the chamber has offered assistance to any business, whether they're a member of the chamber or not. So any business can contact the chamber and ask for help with navigating the website and self-certifying. even if they're not a member of the chamber.
Okay, thanks, Gary. I just have one last question. This one's for Greg, about Pine Street. And I'm just wondering where we are. I know that we've had a lot of work done on Pine Street recently, and where are we with the work that was going to be done in the part of the street that curved and had sunken in? Do we still have that on the timeline for this year to repair? Because we had that instance of flooding and all the debris washes down and stays in this one section of Pine Street.
Yeah, the contractors completed the installation of the sanitary sewer main. They've got a few drainage catch basins to replace and milling and paving of the entire street width, and that should be able to correct that drainage issue. There's
Okay, so that's still on with everything that's happened this year. It's still going to happen.
Yep. The full project scope will be completed.
Okay, great. Thanks, Greg.
Welcome.
Dave, I may have misspoke. If when I gave that website, if I said New York forward, I should have said NY forward.
You did. You said
Okay.
New York forward. Thank you.
I should have said NY forward. Mark Drenick.
Yeah, and an easier way to get to all of that is the supportoneonta.com site. There's a big red banner button right at the top, phase 2, click on it, and it takes you to all of that stuff.
Okay.
And you know, we do want people to continue to use that as a resource. If I could, I was out all day long in Albany and just catching up on some correspondence. And I have a nice thank you here from Kano, and I'd like to just throw it at the committee because it was very nice to read this. So I will. The Community Arts Network of Oneonta Kano is honored to be a part of the Survive Then Thrive campaign. The task force contacted us in search of artwork to be given as prizes for the campaign. We reached out to our members and they were thrilled by the response. By board vote, we narrowed the selection down to 10 original fine artworks that anyone would be happy to have in their homes. Kano is proud to have worked with the council to provide this opportunity to our artist members, while also supporting this exciting campaign aimed at supporting small businesses and the city of Oneonta. So I thought that was great.
Very nice. If there's nothing else, I will say that I was all excited because I saw David Merzig waving to me. I was excited that he was waving to me until I realized it was Katie's kid that he was waving to. With that, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Although you're
Thanks,
cute
everybody.
too, man.